Hey y'all, welcome to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, fringe candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm not Lyndon LaRouche. I am
thank-
Una O'Leary.
Thank fucking God you're not Lyndon LaRouche. If that was the fucking twist we have here in, what is this, part 7? Part fucking 7. I made a rule for myself early on that if anything ever went beyond episode 4, I'd have to question things. It just keeps going with this motherfucker. Like,
I mean, we're questioning things. It's just, we're just questioning Lyndon LaRouche over and over again.
Oh my God. I feel like you could make an entire season just on this guy if you worked for like NPR and someone was paying you to suffer. But like,
we do it for free.
Oh my God. It is.
Grammarly, call us.
Infuriating how much we do shit for free. This is the millennial curse. I am consistently working for experience and exposure and to scream into the void, hoping someone else hears.
You know what? Yeah, bring back silver backing and the gold standard, because what is money to us? Nothing.
Look, at this point, I might as well be accepting money in like international ruble or whatever the fuck Lyndon was going to do.
Starbucks gift cards.
Oh my God. You know what? Fuck it. Sure, let's do it. I'll take it in Starbucks gift cards. I will drink burnt coffee till the end of days. I'm done caring at this point. So yeah, thank you everyone who's been a part of 7 hours of Lyndon Palooza. The misery of LaRouche. I don't know. We'll have a name for this.
If you're still with us, thank you. But also, what is your self-care there, listener?
Man, thank you, and I am so sorry. We're gonna have some fun ones after this, and it's that's my apology to you. Is I'll try to find a few fun ones before we dive back into more sadness. But yeah, I guess a little homemaking. I guess I don't know. Is we're gonna be diving into our first of the year preview 2022, which I'm very excited about. We're going to be talking about everyone's favorite cousin, Texas. You know, that uncle who makes moonshine and you get along with on certain occasions, but other times you're like, I don't think I need to go on Facebook and know you.
Yeah, when you were 8, you thought it was cool that he said he'd buy you a gun when he turned 18, but then you turned 18 and he did buy you a gun, and you were a little older and knew this wasn't okay.
Look, man, I'll take a free gun. I don't care. I'll take it. I'll shoot rats at the dump. I'm not above that.
Oh my God. You're just trying to get by.
That's fair. No, you're right. I don't know any other animals that you're allowed to shoot, like, moral free. Mosquitoes at the swamp? Who's shooting mosquitoes?
Rent a car, drive 3 hours one way to a gun club.
You know what? You and your reasonable fucking solutions. I'm not going to fucking Des Plaines to watch a bunch of other fucking suburbanites who don't know how to use a fucking pistol shoot around me.
Yeah, it's the hidden costs that come with a gun ownership. No one ever tells you.
Like, do I need to take a lift to go to a gun range and use this? Because I should at least practice if I'm going to own it. Wonderful questions. Or you could just, be like people running a political commercial and just shoot a Prius.
Yeah, rent the bear and shoot the Prius.
You know what? I think this is making a lot of sense. You know where to rent bears, and on the Prius we'll write something like government spending or like a tort reform or something, and I'll shoot it and I'll be like, Congress.
Yeah, just make sure you get insurance.
Rental insurance is really good. I wonder if you could actually write that off.
Yeah, it's a campaign contribution.
Don't be a bunch of dicks like Enterprise and hang up on me. These are real
also,
questions.
Please sponsor us with all the monies that you don't have right now.
Or to let you shoot their car for political purposes. And at this rate, we are never getting an ad.
Hurts. It won't hurt us if you shoot the car.
This podcast has been nice. We're ending things now.
This is the sad sundown episode that is the result of 7 consecutive Lyndon LaRouche battles.
Oh my God. Only for him to come up, I'm sure, a dozen more times in the future, because his like weird freaking tentacles are freaking everywhere. So yeah, this is, as I promised, I actually was able to keep this promise that this episode is going to be the very last time we talk about our dear old curmudgeon Lyndon and his poor opinions of literally anything.
Yay!
So I guess it's time to get this over with, because goddamn it, we need to.
This is the worst ripping off a Band-Aid ever.
No, yeah, this is like we're doing like a centimeter. You're a 7-year-old taking off a bandage essentially with this. It's just like you're too young to know better, and like any ounce of pain, you're like, I gotta stop. And it's I'm putting this off again, aren't I?
You are. Let's get to LaRoucheism.
All right, let's do this. All right. Well, here we are. It's our last episode. I'm so excited about it. And lucky for us, we're going to be starting in 1990 with Lyndon is finally in goddamn jail. He committed massive fraud. He ripped off a bunch of old people, promised to pay them back money, but ensured they were mostly like old and infirmed and not of sound mind. So he was able to do this whole grift where he would request a ton of money and then just hope they forgot about it. And it worked for him for a few years until it didn't. So now he's in jail. There have been multiple appeals to try to get him out of jail, including one led by Ramsey Clark, the former Secretary of State for Lyndon Johnson back during the 60s, a guy who was very influential in pushing along the civil rights movement, but also seems to have a later in life fondness for being a lawyer for not just dictators, for like, oh, everyone has to have a lawyer for that sort of thing, more along the lines of like, Slobodan Milosevic didn't kill anyone, or Saddam Hussein didn't do a genocide. I think they're innocent people who had to make tough decisions.
Yeah, like real like Kool-Aid drinking true believer for the worst of humanity.
Yeah. The sorts of people, like, I agree. Everyone deserves at least competent legal assistance, even no matter how shitty you are. Like, Charles Manson needed a lawyer. And, it's a shitty job to have to take, but someone's got to do it. Right. And it really sucks that Ramsey Clark is just like, despite all the evidence of genocide and horrible murder, I say no, sir.
Yeah, like his enthusiasm for his clients is on the level of like, if he represented Satan, he would be like, my client Lucifer fell. This is a slip and fall accident. Your client should be defended because my client should be suing you.
Look, if there's anything I know about Daniel Webster, he is not a trustworthy witness. And so clearly, my client has had to deal with this for years. I mean, look at Faust. I don't want to bring up Faust v. Satan again. I know it's already been litigated, but there is a clear pattern here for my client.
But frankly, it should have been appealed. And it should have been called.
God damn it. Putting this off. Anyway, so...
Damn it, we're doing it again. Okay.
But he's not going to go down without a fight. And that is because he has a whole group of new supporters on his side for this particular fight. And to understand how utterly bizarre this new group of allies are, especially for a dude who kept a grand wizard on his payroll, we need to talk about the civil rights icon Amelia Boynton Robinson. So Amelia was born in 1911 in Savannah, Georgia, and at a very young age dove into the women's suffrage movement. If I remember right, it was around the age of 8 she started fighting for the right for women to vote, not just women, but women of color. So after graduating high school, she studied at Savannah State before transferring to Tuskegee University and ended up getting her degree in home economics. This would land her a job at the USDA, and she began working in Selma, Alabama, sort of as like an instructor and a demonstration teacher. So while in Selma, Amelia got to work fucking with the white supremacy that completely ruled the town. She registered to vote, which is something only about 100 of the 14,000 black men and women in Selma had been able to do in 1930. And this is mostly due to a multitude of poll taxes and various sorts of tests designed to keep black people disenfranchised. So if you're a white person, you could register to vote, no problem. But if you were black, you had to, like, say, pass a reading test or pay an amount of money or answer some questions about the Constitution that most white people didn't know.
Right.
But Amelia, being, a badass suffragette, knew all the answers and just kind of kept going back until they finally let her register. In the 1930s, she wrote her first play titled Through the Years, which was based on her father's half-brother, a guy by the name of Robert Smalls. Now, Robert Smalls had been one of the first African-American congressmen and was during a period during Reconstruction where you got a lot of African-American former enslaved people who became congressmen until all of a sudden we were like, yeah, this is hard. We're done with Reconstruction. I think the South has it. And then things got worse.
So much worse.
Yeah. So, but the big moment for Amelia came in 1954 when she met a preacher in Montgomery, Alabama by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. The two had become friends, and a decade later, their fates would cross paths in the city of Selma. In the 3 decades since Amelia registered to vote, the number of registered black folks in Selma had tripled. Remember, that number is now only 300 out of the 15,000 black folks who live there. Amelia and her family worked their asses off to get those results, but after consistent threats of death and Jim Crow bullshit, it was becoming apparent they needed more allies in town. So enter Dr. Martin Luther King. Amelia, along with a dozen other supporters, began putting together a plan to get people registered to vote. When that was stymied, they went with Plan B, which was going to be a march from Selma to the state capital of Montgomery. On March 7th, 1965, 600 civil rights marchers began their march to Montgomery, led by future Congressman John Lewis and Reverend Jose Williams. When the group crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge out of town, they were met with a mass of state troopers, many of which had been deputized that morning by County Sheriff Jim Clark, who essentially put out a missive saying, anyone over the age of 18 who hates black people, come by and I will deputize you today.
Oof.
So the troopers fired tear gas at the marchers, and within the confusion, they attacked them with batons. Amidst the fray was Amelia, who states, quote, an officer on horseback hit me across the back of the shoulders, and for a second time on the back of the neck, and I lost consciousness. She had also suffered a burned throat due to inhalation of tear gas. Now, pictures and video of the attack were viewed nationwide, including a picture of Amelia, who was unconscious on the road, being held by a fellow marcher. This became known as Bloody Sunday, and this march galvanized Americans in supporting the cause of civil rights and played very heavily in forcing President Lyndon Johnson into passing the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So Amelia Boynton would recover and return to her work to establish the vote to all people, which would come to fruition within the next year when 11,000 black men and women registered to vote in Selma. So then we got to skip ahead to 1983. Now, I'm not entirely sure how or why, but Amelia would claim that this is the year that she met Lyndon and his wife Helga. And by 1984, she became a founding board member of the Schiller Institute, which was Helga's kind of pet organization based in Germany, is based around this philosopher, Friedrich Schiller.
Right. And we've said a German philosopher's name. So listeners, drink.
Yep. And these are the people who were fighting for a specific orchestra pitch. And also in 1992, introduced the idea of cultural Marxism, which has led to the death of 200 people due to violent white supremacists. So in a future interview, she would claim that she was mostly intrigued by Lyndon's economic views, which, I mean, we've been over that. It's, the international ruble, like cryptocurrency sort of, but not really.
Yes.
But everything's gold backed. But one of the things I left out a bit is something kind of referred to as the Bretton Woods Agreement, I believe is what it's called. But the general gist behind it is that the 4 biggest countries in the world need to come together to ensure the safety of the rest of the world. And for Lyndon, this meant America, Russia, China, and India. And the general idea is that these 4 countries work together to establish sort of it's a new order for the world, sort of like a new world order. I guess.
Oh no, wait, Dusty, what?
I mean, he didn't use these terms, but I'm just using my old school Presbyterian biblical knowledge of conservative upbringing, where it's like, this is a little fucking new world ordery, man. But to essentially establish like a massive group to kind of control everything a little bit. But the general idea is if these 4 countries are working together, then naturally everyone else will be totally fine.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the idea of the economic views that work. But one of her most honest opinions on the man was given to the Associated Press when she was in Seattle. And this is after the city of Seattle was going to give her an award. And they're like, hey, you do realize she's kind of associated with this anti-Semitic cult? And the city said, no, we did not know that. And we are going to be retracting this award. They were like, we recognize she did a lot of work for the civil rights movement, but past actions don't make your current actions good.
Yeah.
So when questioned by the Associated Press, Amelia would state about LaRouche, quote, this man was born like me and many others in an ordinary middle-class home where he had to do work for a living and work to get his education. Consequently, he is not a man born with a silver spoon in his mouth. That is why he is fighting for people who have been kept down. It isn't black, it isn't white. He's trying to save this country. Now, based on that, I don't think she knows much about Lyndon's actual upbringing.
No, she needs to listen to the podcast because he just was like kind of a dick and read philosophers until he found one that was good enough for him at what, 13? Because that's when good philosophy.
Look, I loved Catcher in the Rye then, and it's obviously still the best book ever written. We all know that. But yeah, it's like for a guy who dropped out of college twice because he got his fees hurt, you know, it's like you don't listen to Leibniz and all these other philosophers I agree with. So clearly, Boston University is flawed, not me.
Like, and your preferred philosopher, Voltaire wrote a whole book, like an entire diss track for this philosopher.
Yeah. People still fucking produce that play. It was such a good diss.
Yes.
But also it's like, I wouldn't describe LaRouche's upbringing as middle class, if anything. I mean, I don't think his family quite got to middle class from the impression that I got. So I don't know if he's like heightening his experience when he was younger and like pretending like he was like not rich, but not as impoverished as his family was. It's a weird flex.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a weird sentence that it's like, I don't know if this was just the bill of goods she got sold by them or if this had just become the believed knowledge within the cult by this point. Also, anytime you hear someone say it isn't black, it isn't white, I immediately kind of like, sets off alarms in my head. I start seeing flags and it's just like, this feels a little dog whistly, just kind of.
Yeah.
So this friendship with Amelia would become incredibly beneficial for Lyndon after he found himself in prison. Because it turns out a few of Amelia's friends were incredulous that Lyndon had been found guilty of anything. And clearly, Lyndon had been the victim of a federal witch hunt. Now, one such supporter was a guy by the name of J.L. Chestnut, who throughout the civil rights movement was Selma's only black attorney and represented the marchers who were attacked on Bloody Sunday. In 1994, J.L. met with Lyndon and became so certain of his innocence that in an interview with the Tuscaloosa Times, J.L. would state, quote, I told Lyndon that he might as well just be black and live in Alabama.
He would not have had made it this far grifting as hard as he did.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how JL came to this opinion, but I would not equate the civil rights movement to a lone grift.
His hardship is that he got caught.
Yeah, that's literally like, I'm sorry, Lyndon gets to live in a goddamn fucking mansion in the rural burbs and has like an army of followers.
Like a neighborhood that anyone in this current story supporting him would not have been allowed to purchase a home. Like no one would have been approved for a mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know how these sorts of like people are getting brought in. I think it's mostly because Amelia is held in such high regards among so many people in Selma that she can bring in these Selma connections, and through I'm assuming, this is a huge assumption, that through her word they begin to believe what is going on here.
Right. It feels a little bit like a Twitter pile-on where it's just like you haven't read anything, you just see like one person's outrage and it's like, well, we're mutuals.
Yeah, that is a really good example. Yeah, because the other thing Jail does, which is really confusing, is he compares Lyndon's case to a case in 1985 when then U.S. Attorney Jeff Sessions tried to indict a trio of civil rights activists for the crime of registering people to vote.
Yeah, no, he was stealing money from old people with dementia.
No. The government doesn't like Lyndon, and clearly has a strong amount of support. I mean, you've seen the times he's almost gotten 1% of the vote.
It's like the government doesn't like him. You know what? That's fine. The government can be right in not liking a person.
Yeah.
It's also like an enormous entity and not a sixth grader.
Yeah.
Calm down.
We've been market testing Lyndon for nearly 2 decades. It's not fucking working. He's reached maximum fucking grift on this.
For several years, the government did like him. That was a much bigger problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really funny how they tend to gloss over that whole period that like the less than mid-level folks in the Reagan administration clearly liked Lyndon. It's just, it always goes back to fucking Kissinger sent one memo once because he's Kissinger and he's kind of a dick. So of course, if you like poke Kissinger enough, he's going to ask how to fuck you over or like bomb you. And it's so fucking baffling to me. But then it gets worse because the biggest of his new allies would be Minister James Bevel. Now, James had also been present at the March to Montgomery and aided in the planning. In fact, in the movie Selma, he is played by the rapper Common.
Nice.
But during the beginning of the civil rights movement in the 1960s, he was a big name in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, which was the rival group to Martin Luther King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The two would come to an accord in 1962 and vow to work together, resulting in the Birmingham Children's Crusade in 1963, the Alabama Voting Rights Project, and the Chicago Open Housing Movement of 1966. And he was very key in motivating MLK to get into the anti-Vietnam War movement as well. And then everything changed on April 4th, 1968. Now, James Bevel was present when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis. And this moment marks a bit of a turning point for James. For one, James was one of the bigger voices saying that James Earl Ray, who was arrested and prosecuted for assassinating MLK, didn't do it, and claimed that he had evidence that James Earl Ray didn't kill MLK. He never produced said evidence, but it goes along the theory that James Earl Ray didn't kill him, that it was actually an FBI agent who had done the assassination.
Okay.
Now, I haven't dove enough into this to really know one way or the other, and I think we've all seen Bo Burnham's Inside. I know that this gets brought up in one of the many amazing songs, so I don't really know enough to say the credibility of one way or the other, but it's definitely something that was like, I kind of wish you would have produced that evidence at some point in time, because that would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
But he believed this so much that he tried to get on James Earl Ray's defense team, who defend him during this trial. So let's say he's right. He was trying really, really hard to fight this. But if he's wrong, then this seems like a bit of a break. I don't want to diagnose anyone in the moment, but I think if you see someone that you've worked with tirelessly die in front of you, that's probably going to mess you up quite a bit.
Yeah, that grief is going to last and manifest for sure.
And it kind of seems like James's real twist with this is that in the years following the assassination, he becomes extremely conservative. He's a Roman Catholic priest for some amount of time. Eventually, he breaks from the Catholic Church to form his own Afrocentric version of Catholicism.
Okay.
But it's also around this time that he begins supporting Ronald Reagan. In 1984, he runs as a Republican candidate for Congress in Illinois' 7th District, and he ends up losing 78-22 to incumbent Candace Collins. But in 1989, he created this group called the National Committee Against Religious Bigotry and Racism, a good-sounding org created by a cult. And we don't mean LaRouche this time around. Are you familiar with the Moonies or the Unification Church?
Yes. Not personally, but yes, I am familiar with them.
Yeah, I tried to get the Moonies tried to recruit me when we were in Northwestern. They were like standing on the corner trying to get people involved, and I had just read an article about that. I'm not joining your weird church, man. I'm good. So for those of you who don't know, the Unification Church was founded by Sun Myung Moon and kind of believes the following. One, Satan totally fucked Eve, and we're all the descendants of that.
Hey.
So it's not so much original sin as we're all part demon.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Another reason to be on Satan's defense team. I think, you know what, he's technically our great multiple times grandpa, and you got to defend family.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing that they're known for is conducting these sort of mass weddings where you'll see pictures of a bunch of people in like a white wedding dress and a tuxedo, and they all get married at once. That in of itself, it's like, it's weird, but people have quirks. The thing that makes it really fucked up is that Moon picks out who is going to marry who.
Oh yeah, that part gets left out way too often.
Yeah. If I remember, the biggest mass wedding they've done is 2,000 people at Madison Square Gardens.
What?
Yeah.
That's so many couples to put together.
So children of these arranged marriages are then given arranged marriages by their parents because there are too many members from Moon to really kind of pair everyone up. So at certain points when you are arranged, then you sort of get that right to arrange your children. So it distributes the work. It's good management.
How has he not just created an app by now?
I wouldn't put it past him. Also, I don't know if you know this, but romantic love, complete bullshit. No, absolute waste of time. So when you're single, the whole point of being single is to prepare for being married. That doesn't mean having sex. That doesn't mean, any of the fun stuff that comes with being single. It means getting ready for Moon to pick your wife. You get your wife, and if you think you're going to fuck the night of the wedding, you are horribly wrong. You have to wait 40 fucking days. Then there is a 3-day fucking ceremony, which I would hope happens during the weekend, wherein you are only supposed to use the positions that Moon says you're allowed to use. What, that doesn't sound like fun?
Is he too? Okay. All right.
Wait, you have to wait a month and a week, and then you get a book of rules?
you get married on Fat Tuesday, then it's Lent, then on Easter.
Oh my God.
Then to procreating until you see Jesus climb out of that cave.
I wonder if anyone at Madison Square Garden is like having their weird all thumbs sex, and they're just like, hey, there are 1,999 other couples fucking now. Like that moment anomaly. Like, how many people are having an orgasm, right? And the answer is none, because no one knows what they're doing. Because
they're so busy thinking about the other people. Are they having an orgasm? It's like you can't be in the moment.
No, it's a weird 3-day ceremony. You get to call off work if that happens during a weekday.
These people have jobs, Dusty. They're in a cult.
Also, Moon is in contact with Muhammad, Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, St. Augustine, Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Leon Trotsky, and Mao Zedong.
Yeah, they're all on my speed dial. The group chat's insane.
Yeah, I love that you get to throw in like a little bit of esotericism in there as well, where it's like, no, I'm connected with all the great minds in history. Apparently also, Sun Myung Moon is the, quote, third Adam, a sort of perfect being destined to have the perfect marriage. So this was initially meant for Adam, but, Satan fucked his wife, so what are you going to do? And then was going to be Christ. And this is a really controversial opinion that the Unification Church has, is that Jesus was supposed to get married, but then he got crucified, so he couldn't. So this perfect marriage is the thing that will save the world, or sort of bring the world peace or something like that. And so, Adam got cucked, Jesus got killed. And so it's up to Sun Myung Moon to be the perfect marriage with his partner.
Oh my God. This is fuck, marry, kill religion.
So to make things even worse, there's also a breakaway sect of the church here in America founded by one of Moon's sons that kind of gets commonly referred to as the Church of the Gun.
Subtle.
So it's in Pennsylvania, and there is a church that's a break off that essentially they're like, hey, bring your AK-47 to church. It's essentially both God and gun worship at the same time.
Fuck subtext. We're doing it live.
Look, only so many people are available to join a cult at one time. You take what you can get, and you might as well get all the guns.
Yeah, honestly.
But also kind of make things more fun. There are 1 to 2 million members of this church worldwide.
So many.
They were very close allies with Richard Nixon, and
that's right.
They used to own the Washington Times.
Oh, yeah. Not the Washington Post.
No. Washington Times, the rarely bought in DC conservative newspaper.
Yes.
So they are rich beyond word. His son died, and they created like this whole burial ceremony.
Wow.
Or when you die, like you get the unification flag put on. It's a whole thing. I didn't include it because it's the least weird thing. Like burial ceremonies, everyone has different ones. They're all very strange, but no one gets hurt.
Right.
But
it's important to grieve.
So James saw this church, and he's like, I want to help. I want to help
that one.
Racism and bigotry for you fucking people.
This is wild.
So it only makes sense that in 1990, 1 year later, James began working for LaRouche. Or more accurately, he started doing work through the Schiller Institute for his old friend Amelia. So specifically, James went to Omaha, Nebraska to encourage the state to reopen reopen a case against Lawrence E. King Jr. Now, King had been the president of the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union in Omaha. And essentially, there were allegations spread that he had been running a child sex ring and a, quote, cult of devil worshippers that were involved in the mutilation, sacrifice, and cannibalism of numerous children. And yes, Una, this did take place during the Satanic Panic of the 80s. And of course, they had no evidence. So the general idea is this was all operating out of Boys Town, which is sort of like it's essentially actually a city that is an orphanage at the same time. They have various...
Sorry, what?
Yeah, so Boys Town is its own town.
It's not, we're not talking about the neighborhood in Chicago.
Correct. Yeah, so Boys Town is an actual town in Nebraska that is operated as sort of as like a Catholic-based orphanage for young men, as well as like young men and their families. Or, you know, if you're a family on the verge of homelessness, you might be able to find housing there, things like that. And so Boys Town has locations in a number of other states, but Nebraska is the main place where they're stationed. And the idea was that King was getting boys from Boys Town and then putting them into satanic servitude. Yeah. So, you know, it's a satanic panic. The conspiracy kind of builds up and they lash onto it, whether it's true or not. But it also didn't help that King was 100% guilty of embezzling $38 million from the credit union, which, you know, you can steal $38 million and still not be a satanic cannibal, but it does kill the bank. So either way, the Schiller Institute created the Citizens Fact-Finding Commission to investigate human rights violations of children in Nebraska in 1990 and put James in charge. James goes to Omaha, starts shaking some cages, starts, getting signatures for petitions. He never submits these petitions and then leaves the next summer.
What?
Yeah. So they make this big deal about how they're going to find all this satanic bullshit. They're going to get all these petitions. They're going to submit it to the state, reopen the case, take down these fucking devil worshippers. And by that, he means they'll do a little petitioning and then go home in a year.
Did you start looking into it and realize it was run by the Catholic Church? And of course, there was going to be terrible, ghastly shenanigans. But being an ex-member, he was like, deuces, bye.
Yeah, I mean, it's from everything I've read is that, you know, ghastly shit might have happened.
Yeah.
The fact that King did it probably isn't true. Like, this is a weird story. Shit might have happened, but not this way. But yeah, so he ends up leaving and never gets reopened or anything. It's still a conspiracy that exists in Nebraska. People still kind of believe it and all that. But Boys Town was able to continue on relatively unscathed. James also spent a little bit of time in Louisville that year, mainly to speak to the city's plan to include LGBTQ folk in their hate crime law. And James would speak before the city council. And according to the Courier-Journal, people were kind of taken aback by James's claim that fornication was the cause of all the issues in the Black community. And he wanted to make it very clear it was not white people.
Oh, James.
And he then followed that up with the false claim that no civilization has been able to last after homosexuality became legalized.
I mean, Greece is still a country.
It's not an empire, Una. I mean, we all know our Grecian history. You know, Sparta was doing really, really good. And then they're like, all right, we'll let these two dudes fuck. And then the next day, no more Sparta.
Boom, Rome.
Boom, roasted. Probably one of the most asinine things I've ever heard in my goddamn life, when Greece is completely, totally fine with like polyamorous, multi-love, doesn't fucking matter. We have the first civilization in this part of the country ever. So maybe we know what we're doing and no one gives a shit. No one fucking cares. And they're fine. Anyway, God damn it. Yeah, I don't know if that opinion is just based out of ignorance of the fact they're just like, well, the empire's not around now. So checkmate, liberals. So following this weird stint in Omaha, James moved to Leesburg and began working alongside many LaRouche followers and doing presentations for the group, such as one in particular entitled, Is the Anti-Defamation League the New KKK?
Oh, wow. What?
Yep, he led that. A man who knows what the KKK is and what they do probably better than most, comparing them to the Anti-Defamation League.
This is heartbreaking.
You're going to feel okay about it in a bit. I promise you there is going to be some really gross comeuppance and you're going to feel better about it. And just remember that John Lewis existed during this time. And like, just keep remembering John Lewis and everything will be better.
All right.
But before we get even deeper into James's new work, we should probably talk about what Lyndon's doing in jail. So like we said in the last episode, Lyndon got sent to prison in Rochester, Minnesota in 1989, and it was for a 15-year sentence. Within his first year in prison, Lyndon ran for office.
Of what? Jail cell A? Jail block A?
Look, that would have made more sense probably. And we know Lyndon, he only runs for president. And 1990 is not a presidential year. So he decides to run for Congress of Virginia's 10th district. And I'm sure you're wondering, how the hell is Lyndon going to run for Congress from prison?
I am wondering that.
He doesn't.
Oh, he just gets shut down?
Yeah, well, no, he he doesn't do anything. He's just in prison.
Right, because he's never done anything. Okay.
Yeah, kind of the bigger story that's going on in Virginia right now is he does have a lot of supporters running, but the big one is this woman named Nancy Spanis, who is the wife of another guy who got taken down during the anti-fraud trials that occurred. And she is trying to run for governor of Virginia. And she's running against a guy named Mark Warner. And essentially the Democrats realize, oh, she's the only person on the ballot. We didn't plan this out. So they make an announcement saying that they're going to hold a convention. And if she doesn't get more than 50%, they are running no candidate that year. And Mark Warner essentially gets to run by himself. So the Democrats kick Nancy off the ballot. She is running as an independent, and Mark Warner can just like have the easiest year of his fucking life.
God damn it.
Yeah, you know, we talk about Democrats in disarray a lot, but it's a lot of shit where it's like, maybe you should ask around about who's running. Maybe you should have this planned out instead of just wait and see. Just pick a guy, pick someone you trust. At default, the head of the party in the state just puts in their name, and we go from there. So a lot more people are focused on Nancy and her weird ass fucking run, and no one really gives a shit that Lyndon's running for Congress from prison. That being said, he does end up raising about $200,000, which ends up being more than his Republican challenger has. And the guy he's running against has been the congressman in this county for 5 terms. There is no chance of him unseating him, but he still ends up raising more money than his Republican incumbent.
Ooh, whose money?
Well, that being said, though, is he did end up spending most of it about 8 months before the election. So it's not like they were able
On
to
commissary stuff? Like
the general grift that I've kind of seen that he makes is that he brings in all this money for fundraising and then he spends all the money for flyers and posters and airtime, but it's all run through companies that he owns. So it's money laundering, legal money laundering is essentially what it is. So Lyndon comes in dead last out of 4 people, but as a consolation prize, he did have the pleasure of having disgraced televangelist Jim Baker as his cellmate.
Oh, wow. Providence.
So Jim Baker would state that he was very surprised by how well Lyndon knew the Bible, which, I mean, if you're Jim Baker, I don't know how much of the Bible you know to begin with, but...
I feel like if you're Jim Baker, you're surprised anyone else knows the Bible because
you read numbers?
No, it's just more of it's like, no one could possibly know the Bible as well as me.
That's why they put me in prison. But yeah, Jim said they got along really, really well.
Of course they did.
But Lyndon would eventually state that he wasn't a huge fan of Jim because Jim's entourage kept showing up to prison and interrupting Lyndon's work.
What, when he was getting swole?
Oh my God, just picturing Lyndon at a fucking workout machine. The way I interpreted it was like, oh, people who love Jim are showing up and no one's visiting Lyndon. I'm sure that's not true, but that's how I interpreted that. But Jim would state after being released that LaRouche believed their cell was bugged. And the words of Baker, quote, to say LaRouche was a little paranoid would be like saying that the Titanic had a tiny leak. So skip ahead to 1982. You know what time it is. It's time for Lyndon to run for fucking president. And while prison would be a combo breaker for nearly everyone else, Lyndon LaRouche became the first person to run for president from jail since Eugene Debs did in 1920. But since Lyndon was in jail, he couldn't really get out there and spread his message the traditional way. You know, he couldn't be doing new TV spots at 11:30 p.m. on some side channel or like, you know, yelling at C-SPAN. He had to have someone go out and preach his message for him. Someone with clout, someone that people respected. You know, someone that people had actually heard of this time. And who could be better for the job than respected Reverend and civil rights activist James Bevel?
Unbelievable.
And James, honestly, he did even less than I expected. You know, I figured James would take this as a great opportunity to spread the word and to really make himself known. And from what I could tell, he barely talked to anyone and barely campaigned. There's a moment that he went to the University of North Carolina with Spike Lee to build a Black Studies building, or to push for the building of that. And some people were like, you might want to pick a better guy than James Bevel right now, but okay. Yeah, but that seems to be like the main thing he got there. I do remember watching when we were doing the John Hagelin episode, I was watching a debate that he did, and it kept getting interrupted by LaRouche people the whole time, and they were complaining that James Bevel wasn't there, and they're like, he's not the presidential nominee. We're not going to invite him. But yeah, it was just like a full 15 minutes of this debate gets completely hijacked by LaRouche people.
Wow.
And, like, just people in the audience are getting flabbergasted by the number of times that like it just keeps getting interrupted. But yeah, that's essentially all he does. So there's not much I could really find about him campaigning, but he would state that he was running for VP because he liked, quote, LaRouche's science of Christian economy. In that science, he says in effect that no nation can have a workable, equitable economy if it disrespects the divinity of any human being. Which sounds a whole lot like Leibniz bullshit, or leave it, whatever. It sounds a whole lot like that fucking Voltaire bullshit, where it's like, you know, everything has beauty and everything, it's this fucking bullshit that like, all right. So the divinity of any human being. Is it a human being who doesn't practice Christianity, James? Or like, are they allowed to have any sort of equitable, any sort of thing? If it's like a Muslim nation or an atheist nation, are they allowed to have a working economy? Or are they fucked because they don't believe in your God or whatever, man?
Yeah, it sounds like someone went on to Reddit anti-work and started like reading through all of the like socialist screens and was like, yeah, and then turns around and is like, Jesus, die for your sins, motherfucker.
Yeah.
No, that's how did you get that from this? No.
It's really like every warning post on anti-work being like, guys, we got to make sure that these people are not allowed to stay here. This is a den. So it's this idea that like you have to be a Christian nation and you have to recognize the divinity of every person, but clearly you don't think the LGBTQ folk fit into that, James.
Yep. Nope.
It's like how does this economy actually work? What are the actual nuts and bolts that make this work? Is it that you have a fascio-Christian society and it works for those people and everyone else just kind of goes away mysteriously? Is that the fucking plan, James?
That's absolutely it. Yeah, no, this is the mindset of people who get so butthurt at a Starbucks coffee cup not saying Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it's such a fucked up sentence that, and even beyond that, I don't see how that the plan beyond everyone is a Christian and we're good. It's like God giving everyone Bitcoin. Are we like hodling to the moon? Like, what is this?
Yeah. Can I sue my employer for poor workplace measures and inequitable pay? But no, because what does that have to do with God?
Yeah, it's like, clearly it's not working because you're not a Christian. It takes so much onus.
God.
Yeah, it's such a fucked up sentence. But aside from that, the campaign was entirely about getting Lyndon out of jail and exonerated, which in a speed, the LaRouche cult stated would require, quote, a political movement like the Mandela movement. So we're comparing Lyndon to Nelson Mandela.
Who did get compared to Nelson Mandela in 1992, though?
They're two former communists who are stuck in jail. That's as far as I can get. But you know what makes it even harder to get attention to your abrasive con man of a third-party candidate? That would be a lovable Texan with more money than most and the availability of far better TV ad times. That's right, H. Ross Perot has entered the chat, and he's doing TV ads just like Lyndon, only better because he has this thing called, charisma. Pew, pew, pew! And, you might not agree with what H. Ross has to say, but he's a charming motherfucker, and he's kind of a lot more charming than Lyndon.
He's certainly shaking things up.
And if you're trying really, really hard for a third-party movement, and your whole thing is TV ads, and you get outshone by this guy, things are going to turn out worse for you. And guess what? That's exactly what fucking happened. LaRouche Bevel would end up finishing in 10th place, this time coming in 3rd behind all the other cults who were running.
Wow.
Lost to the New Alliance Party, lost to the fucking Natural Law Party, but then deep down you have the fucking LaRouches.
Wow.
And sure, Lyndon might not be president, but in 1994, he would get the next best thing, his freedom. After serving 5 years of his 15-year sentence, Lyndon was released from prison on parole. He would fly back to Virginia and stay in a rented mansion with a pair of his supporters in Round Hill, with plans to return to Leesburg at some point. But he would remain on probation until 2004. But for LaRouche and his followers, this wouldn't be nearly enough. They would make his complete and total exoneration their life goal. In 1995, former Attorney General Ramsey Clark wrote then Attorney General Janet Reno to review the original case against Lyndon. The Schiller Institute held a pair of hearings to review their case that Lyndon had been a political prisoner. And surprise, surprise, they both said yes. But probably the most disturbing event happened in 1996. Now that year, a full-page ad ran in the Washington Post and Roll Call, calling for Lyndon's exoneration. Now that alone would just kind of be par for the course free ad money. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes it kind of fucked up is the list of people who added their names to this call to action. And the signatories included former Senator Eugene McCarthy, 30 congressmen, hundreds of state representatives and senators, former president of Argentina Arturo Frondizi, former president of Uganda Godfrey Ben Issa, Amelia Boynton Robinson, James Bevel, and Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks!
Yep. So I will say Rosa was very much up in age at that point. So that's the excuse I'm giving it, is that Amelia and James gave her some bad info and she did a favor for a friend. That is what I choose to believe at this point. So despite this truly upsetting outpouring of support, Lyndon still has yet to be exonerated to this day. However, James would end up facing his own set of charges. In 2007, he was arrested on charges of incest. So 3 of his daughters would claim that he had begun raping them when they were as young as 6 years old.
Oh my God.
Bevel was found guilty thanks to him admitting to the rape during a taped phone call with his daughter. He was convicted in 3 hours and sentenced to 15 years in prison, of which he would serve 7 months before being released.
Whoa!
But this is good because he was released because he had prostate cancer, which killed him in 6 weeks.
Oh no, I would rather him live a long life and serve out that time.
Yeah, It's
Oh,
James Bevel might be one of the worst people from that movement. He's just a god awful, terrible human being who took advantage of his own children and a multitude of people and just kind of lost his fucking mind.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So good fucking riddance to that asshole. Now, I'm going to pretty quickly go through a bit of history here because after 1992, the LaRouche story kind of goes a bit cold. At this point, he's in his 70s. Most of his wild stuff has already been said, so we just kind of be repeating things. And talking about what his movement has evolved into nowadays feels a lot more important. In 1996, Lyndon runs for president, as is tradition. He ran in the Democratic primaries as the only competition to incumbent Bill Clinton, and he ended up having his best results, finishing in second overall with 5.47% of the vote and 596,000 votes. He'd win a delegate from Virginia and a delegate from Louisiana, but prior to the primaries, Democrat Party Chair Don Fowler directed state parties to treat Lyndon not as a true party member and refuse him any delegates. Now, Lyndon sued, but he'd end up losing his case in 1999. And typically I would call bullshit on this, but it's kind of funny that he is the legally correct decision because the Democratic Party has a requirement that the nominee has to be a registered voter. And since he lived in Virginia and is a convicted felon, he's never allowed to vote again. So by law,
Hilarious.
Lyndon can never get delegates.
Yep.
And he could just move from Virginia to some place that would allow him to do that, but he never fucking does.
But Christ, that rented mansion is just too good.
So in 2000, Lyndon ran the Democratic primaries again. But it's very much like he hadn't learned his lesson in 96 because even if he did well, he's not getting delegates. He's not going to win the nomination. But at the time, only Al Gore was running and Senator Bill Bradley. Gore is a predetermined thing that everyone knew he was going to win. Bill Bradley was just kind of there for the most part. So LaRouche hopping in kind of made sense to be sort of a third option. And long after Bill Bradley dropped out of the race, Lyndon began racking up sizable votes. Most notably, he got 21.5% in the Arkansas primary, which would have earned him 7 delegates. But like I said, he's not a registered voter. He didn't move from Virginia, so he gets nothing. Good day, sir. So he finishes third, 2.3% of the vote, 323,000 votes. However, he also used this time to let his campaign businesses overcharge him for items and services, which the FEC found out about, and they demanded he pay them back $200,000.
Wow.
So in 2004, Lyndon would run for his 8th and final presidential campaign. Ran in the Democratic primary, and this time he was completely ignored. He finished 8th with 103,000 votes. Most of the time afterwards was spent harassing the Democratic nominee, John Kerry. But by the time November rolled around, he actually endorsed Kerry and promised to do everything he could to ensure that Bush didn't win a second term. So it's your fault, Lyndon. It's entirely your fault. So technically, Lyndon would kind of run in 2016. There was a bit of a movement in his group to try to get people to either write in Lyndon LaRouche or Alexander Hamilton. But the thing with write-in votes is it has to be approved ahead of time. And if you get a vote that is for someone who is not a write-in, they don't keep track of that. So we have no idea if people actually voted for Lyndon or Alexander Hamilton. And even if they did, we don't know how many. And then in 2019, Lyndon LaRouche finally died. Lyndon was 96 when he died. No idea what he died from. He just fucking died in 2019. I assume COVID. Who fucking knows?
It's just hitting me now. It's like 2019. That was not long ago.
No, it was very soon ago. Lyndon LaRouche finally fucking died. Which brings us to today. Because while Lyndon may be trying to sell his gold-backed crypto ruble in the afterlife, there are people carrying on his tradition today. And those people can be split into 3 different groups. The first would be the Schiller Institute. So the org is still run by Helga Zepp LaRouche and continues to pump out content even during the pandemic. Most recently, they've shifted to regular sort of YouTube conferences to talk about different topics. And these topics have included just a whole bevy of really poorly named grad papers. My 3 favorites are all moral resources of humanity have to be called up, mankind must be the immortal species.
No, you need a question mark somewhere in there.
There is no, quote, climate emergency, apply the science and economics of development to stop blackouts and death.
This is terrible clickbait. This is like, no, they need a new copywriter.
And finally, the moral collapse of the transatlantic world cries out for a new paradigm.
These are just rejected Pravda news article titles.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it sounds a lot like Lyndon's writing, which I think is why they go with this route. But it's a word salad of nonsense.
Am I going to watch it and someone's just going to have a meltdown and start talking about the roaches?
It's so much more boring than that. There is no one with really Lyndon's wild-eyed boringness. It's all people who are just like too out there for C-SPAN, and so this is where they end up. And sure, these are long, poorly worded names for conferences. But they've actually been pulling in some fairly big names as guests. There's former state representative of Virginia and Assad apologist Richard Black. There's current state senator from Kansas Mike Thompson. And probably the most disappointing is former Surgeon General Joycelyn Elders, who, it's heavily devastating that she is there because she is a brilliant doctor, fought like hell to make sex education a thing for kids in the 90s, and was essentially crucified by the conservative side for any opinions that she had on that matter. Got kicked out of the Clinton administration, and now she's a fucking LaRouche person. It's heartbreaking to see her at these conferences. So the group has pushed the idea that climate change is not man-made, but the result of changes in the sun. There's this sort of idea the sun's getting hotter, so of course our world's getting hotter. And eventually the sun will cool down, and then we'll cool down. But they've also made the argument that all this investment into solar and wind energy will result in a genocide via the rising cost of food. I do not fucking know how.
It's like that will happen if we don't start investing in these renewable resources, for sure.
Did I not know that corn is gas powered? Like, the fuck are they talking about?
What I love is this has as much validity as my argument, which is just that it's the calendar. We're just like a day off track, and that's why the snow keeps arriving later and later in the year. We just need to like ignore November and December one year and just do a do-over.
I don't appreciate this leap year conspiracy bullshit has no place in a public forum.
I'm just saying, give me a painfully boring title, and I will get myself onto that YouTube channel.
So the other thing the group has been trying is from around 2018 to 2020, they're trying really hard to get Trump to issue a posthumous pardon for LaRouche. And so that's the main stuff they're sort of working on right now. But the Schiller Institute has an enemy, and it is the worldwide LaRouche youth movement and the LaRouche PAC. So the WLYM, how I'm going to be referring to them from here on out, was founded in 2000 by Barbara Boyd, and it was a way to kind of recruit younger members to the movement. There are people who are hypothesizing that Lyndon created this group because he realized that a lot of his members were aging out due to death and time, and he realized that, you know, he might not be long for this world, and you kind of need that youth movement. You need to revitalize your group with the new blood, and he was trying to kind of create that atmosphere that he used to have in the 60s.
Oh, sure, yeah, and I mean, listen, Mao had it, Hitler had it,
fucking glory
top
days.
hitters.
So yeah, founded in 2000 by Barbara Boyd. I really want to state this. Barbara is a boomer and was put in charge of a youth movement. Just want to fucking say that. The general angle is that the group would point out that the baby boomer generation had completely led them astray. And it was up to the youth to retake the world, which, not gonna lie, that's a compelling argument if you're deep in debt and have minimal options going forward. But also, I find it fucking hilarious that that's a goddamn boomer pushing.
She's going to hand out participation trophies and then yell at how kids just expect participation trophies.
All these participation trophies for these kids, and these kids are taking them?
They're taking them. They're so lazy. They just expect now a participation trophy.
Yeah, you know how excited kids our age got when we got a participation trophy?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing no one talks about. It's like everyone knew it was a loser trophy. It's like, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah, great. A ribbon. I'll put this in the bottom of a closet, and then I'll dig it up when I'm 35 and feel bad again.
Yeah, awesome. My dad's going to make fun of me now when I go home because I couldn't even place. Cool.
You couldn't get in the top 3 in what? Hopscotch? My God. Yeah, and so it's this whole thing. But the thing that starts causing a rift is that the message is that the boomers in the group are to blame for Lyndon not succeeding.
I mean, they were there, so they fumbled the ball.
Yeah. Like, it's not Lyndon's fault, clearly. So
yes.
So yeah, the group was inspired by the ramblings of a dude who was, born before boomers even existed. And the group primarily recruited on college campuses. Once they got someone interested, they would pressure the new member to drop out of college and devote all their time to the group. The motivation was that the world is fucked. What's this college education going to give you? And if you're going to save the world, what better time to start than now?
Also, what venture capitalists and other Silicon Valley upstarts would say to young tech bros.
Mm-hmm. So once you dropped out of college, you would devote several hours a day to daily lessons in LaRouchean thought. And from there, the members would then travel to other campuses and recruit more members.
So it's an MLM of people?
It's a cultish MLM. Only no one has a downline. There's only one person at the top. It's like Lyndon, then maybe Barbara, and then just a fuck ton of college students.
And then just a flat line.
Yeah. By the worst definition, it's a pyramid.
Or a ziggurat.
Yeah, ziggurat scheme's not illegal. Oh, God, that's dark. So the group would have a pretty quiet beginning, but in 2003, they kind of made their first big campaign. and started doing what would be their calling card, comparing someone they didn't like, Adolf Hitler.
They discovered the internet?
Essentially, yeah. So in 2003, during the California recall, the YLM did their part by distributing leaflets nationwide, for a state election, as you do, that featured Arnold Schwarzenegger standing next to Adolf Hitler. But the thing that the youth movement was clearly more successful at doing was looking beyond just running for office, but actually infiltrating local Democratic parties and gaining positions of authority. In California, Quincy O'Neill and Juanil Inasantes had been elected to positions in the California State Black Caucus and Filipino Caucus, respectively. Cody Jones had won Democrat of the Year via the LA County Democratic Party in 2006, and all of this was despite all three of them being LaRoucheites. By 2007, the YLM was pushing for the removal of Vice President Dick Cheney, but also was stating that global warming was a fraud motivated by Malthusianism. So the general idea behind this is that there's infinite growth through a population. You can always just kind of keep fucking and creating more. But there's a limit to the amount of food that can ever exist on a planet.
Okay, yeah.
And, if population is always going up and food is remaining the same, at some point, there are going to be more people than there is food possible to be available, which will result in people dying. And so it's the idea that, hey, maybe we shouldn't reproduce so much. Maybe we should be careful with our food production. And to the Youth LaRouche movement, that is just bullshit. And it's this whole idea that it's going to lead to population culling. There's going to be a mass die-off, and they're going to be able to use this to be able to kill off people. They also took time to protest that MySpace and Facebook were purposely social engineering people to have lower cognitive power. And I hate when someone's right, especially this.
You know what? A stopped watch is correct twice a day.
Look, man, maybe not so much about MySpace.
No, RIP, rest in power.
But yeah, so in 2007, they were one of the first people to be like, hey, maybe this Facebook thing isn't good.
Yeah, all right. You're allowed one.
But it'd be in 2009 that I think is how most millennials know them. So around 2009 is around Occupation Wall Street, all that fun stuff. And have you ever been to an Occupy protest where you saw someone holding a poster of Barack Obama with a Hitler mustache?
You could stop with, have you ever been to an Occupy Wall Street protest? Because the answer is just no.
Okay.
So,
well, have you ever been to a protest where you saw a sign that was Barack Obama with a little Hitler mustache on his face?
I mean, I'm sure I saw like AP photos of that nonsense. Yeah. I myself was never there in person.
That is 100% LaRouche people.
Wow. Okay.
They invented that piece of bullshit.
Yeah.
They would show up at Occupy, try to get through with that. They also started showing up at Tea Party rallies to support the Tea Party movement, to which the Tea Partiers very quickly distanced themselves from the LaRouche kids.
Damn.
Look, we're pretty hardcore, but we're not.
Yeah.
That is not us. Good sirs. This particular campaign of Obama is Hitler became a very popular thing. There is a magazine cover from one of their many publications that has it's a picture of Hitler hanging out with folks and just having a belly laugh, and Obama's been photoshopped in there laughing with him. Yeah, and so there were multiple times where LaRouche people should front people outside of a Trader Joe's and ask people they supported our Hitler president, and fistfights would start. And
good Lord, this was before memes took off.
Yeah, it's essentially like this confrontation sort of thing where, I wouldn't be surprised if YouTube was bigger at the time, that it'd be the whole just to prank bros and just be filming this whole thing just for the content and to get attention. It's essentially doing that without even the motivation of clicks, which somehow
so pure. It's just, yeah.
I don't know if that's better or sadder. I really don't know. But since then, though, the LaRouche youth movement has kind of died off. And it seems like it's morphed into LaRouche PAC for the most part. The YLM website's been down for a while, and LaRouche PAC is still relatively updated. And a lot of the people who were leading the LaRouche youth movement have merged into LaRouche PAC to begin with. But Helga has made it very, very clear that she does not believe that LaRouche PAC represents what her husband started all these years ago. And I think that's mostly because the LaRouche PAC group has become fervently pro-Trump.
Huh.
Yeah. And so I think with the Schiller Institute, it makes sense to ask Trump for a pardon because they'd probably ask any president for a pardon.
Right. Yeah. Whoever's in office.
But LaRouche PAC seems to be shifting from Lyndon is our thought leader to Trump is our new thought leader. And that you can't replace a fucking cult leader. It has to be the same guy no matter what. You can always have new guys. But, you don't see fucking Kim Jong-un deciding that, he's the new top guy. That's not how it works. You get the smaller statue from your dad. These are the laws. So that seems to be about it. And Barbara Boyd would pen a manifesto titled "Robert Mueller is an amoral assassin. He will do his job if you let him." So it essentially claims that the British got LaRouche charged to begin with in the 90s, and that Robert Mueller tried leading a coup against Trump. Somehow that's connected. But the group's biggest success thus far would be a candidate by the name of Kesha Rogers. So Kesha was born in Houston, Texas in 1976. She would attend Texas State University and get her degree in political science and speech communications. And 2 years after graduating, she joined the LaRouche youth movement. Much like other folks in the youth movement, she went straight for a position of power. In 2006, she ran to become the Texas Democratic Party chairman. But once party members found out that she was a LaRouche person, the campaign was crushed. Undeterred, Kesha instead ran for public office. In 2010, she entered the Democratic primary in Texas's heavily conservative 22nd district. Also running was a libertarian and preacher by the name of Freddie John Weeder Jr., and the Democratic establishment pick, a citizens analyst by the name of Doug Blatt. Now, Kesha would run in the primary against Doug Blatt on a very LaRouchean platform. The idea that we need classical education like Plato in the schools.
Oh, Lord.
Whole version of globalism is evil. Barack Obama is a British-backed monster. And, here's Kesha holding a picture of Barack Obama with a Hitler mustache. And she also wants to impeach him. So, good democratic ideals.
What are you, Kesha, get off the stage.
But she also tailored her campaign to be very much Houston-centric. So one of the things that Obama did at the time is he ended the Constellation project for NASA, which essentially shut down the shuttle program for a period of time. And so Kesha picked a very busy street corner and held a sign condemning Barack Obama for destroying NASA, citation needed, and ran on the campaign of, quote, help send me to Congress and we can send our grandchildren to Mars. So after raising $16,000, Kesha won the primary 53% of the vote.
Shut the front door. God damn it.
She became the first LaRouchean to win a major primary since 1986. The state party immediately refused to endorse her, which she referred to as, quote, an attempt to sanction me for winning a primary election, and then demanded an apology from the party.
But also, she shouldn't have gotten this far.
Mm-hmm. It's this constant fucking thing. It's like you have to, I feel like the Democratic Party in so many of these states where they don't expect to win just kind of get lazy, that they feel like they only have to focus on a few things. And
there are crazies from all corners.
Yeah, it's like it's fucking
barbarians at the gates.
It's like,
yes,
like this shit fucking happens. You have to keep your eyes out. At least get an intern to keep track of shit.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, she did win. That's the unfortunate part.
So incumbent Republican Pete Olson would go on to beat her 67-30. And then she won the primary again in 2012.
God damn it.
She defeated her only competitor, a financial planner and future county judge, KP George, by 103 votes. Once again, she ran on a very heavy campaign of impeaching Barack Obama, restoring the Glass-Steagall Act, which used to separate commercial and investment banking. And I hate to say it, yeah, it'd be great to bring that back. And also she wanted to pour a ton of money into NASA. Once again, the state party disavowed her, and she spent her campaign calling for the cabinet to use the 25th Amendment to remove Barack Obama, which is the one that says if enough of the cabinet votes on it to state that the president is not of sound mind, then the president can be removed.
Which got brought up so much during our last president.
Yep.
For good reason.
Yeah. And then once again, Pete Olson beats her 64-32. So she gained 2% of the vote in 2 years.
Oh my God.
And you know what? If you gain 2% of the vote, yeah, it's really time that you run for Senate. So in 2014, she ran for Senate, Una. And look, she didn't win the Dem primary. But this is because Texas has a thing that if no one gets 50% of the vote in the primary, it has to go to a top 2 runoff.
Okay.
And Kesha ends up in the top 2 runoff.
Oh my God. She is actively girl boss gaslighting her way through this.
And the thing that sucks is I do kind of like some of her platform. I agree. Give NASA all the money they want. She wants to ban fracking. That's a plus. She wants a single-payer healthcare system. Sure. She wants to restore Glass-Steagall. That would be great. But it's all that extra LaRouche shit that about how the Brits are ruling everything and trying to kill us all, and that Barack Obama is secretly Hitler, and all this.
And the Anti-Defamation League is the new Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, it's all this extra shit that they still keep fucking holding on to that makes all of this completely impossible to support her for good reason. And lucky for us, Kesha ends up losing the runoff 72-28. But I think it goes to show how fucking doomed the Texas Democrats continually fucking are. And we'll talk about this more in the next episode because I got a lot to say about riding it all on Beto. The bad fucking idea. You should be ashamed of yourselves. But you know what? She runs for Congress again in 2018, but she's not trying to be a Democrat anymore. This time she's more of an independent. I mean, that's mainly because she's running in a new district, and she's running against Al Green in one of the most blue areas in Texas. And in 2018, a Republican didn't even run that year against Green. So she goes independent, comes in last place out of 4 people, and gets 3% of the vote.
Lord.
And if you're wondering what she's up to now, well, I can tell you where she was on January 6, 2020.
Of course.
And yes, Una, she does own a Trumpy bear. I don't know if you're familiar with Trumpy bear. Trumpy bear is a thing that was sold on infomercials, which is a big old teddy bear with a Donald Trump wig on it. I think it was like $40.
Of course it was $40. That is horrifying.
Yeah, Trumpy bear big bank. She's anti-vax. She is full-on MAGA walk-away Democrat. And this, whether Helga Zepp likes it or not, this is the path path that her and Lyndon's org has taken. While they could both pretend to be leftists and run as Democrats, deep down their message has always been anti-Semitic, racist, and fascist. It's just for them, they had that leftist facade they could kind of hide behind if people really didn't look too deep into things. But now the LaRouche movement is full fascist, and by default, full Republican. Their most successful modern candidate is anti-vax fascist, and after seeing so many parallels between LaRouche and Alex Jones, it kind of feels like we owe so much to our current bullshit on Lyndon Hermile fucking LaRouche. And I think that's why it's important to talk about this guy, because initially, for me, Lyndon LaRouche has always been a joke. He's always been that guy that like 3% of the country seems to support for some ungodly fucking reason. His supporters seem weird but harmless. But in actuality, he's kind of a proto-Trump. He's like a smarter cult leader, is essentially all he is, but he's helped really test run a lot of these fascist movements. And now that the fascist movement is alive and burgeoning and planning their next mode of whatever the fuck is going to happen, I mean, you have all these former LaRouchians and youth LaRouche movement people to really say, hey, this worked for us. This didn't. We can make this work. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news and have this be a complete bummer.
But
Lyndon's dead, but he's not.
Yeah.
If anything, I think we said this multiple times that if Lyndon were alive now, he would be a lot scarier than he was. So my big question, Una, what the fuck happened? What went wrong? What can we learn as potential? Like, if anyone out there is a future parent, what can you learn from this to ensure that your child doesn't become Lyndon?
What? Love them.
Good step. Good first step.
Step one, interact with them. I feel like as you're wrapping it up and explaining, as you're saying, like how it just seemed like this kind of weird fringy thing and a name that you sort of know peripherally. And instead it's just like this hotbed for so many of very specifically today's ailments, politically, socially, culturally. I feel more like Lyndon is the American wart that occasionally it's like just like the herpes flash. It's like because it's just a contained bit of all of America's terrible inherent craziness.
Yeah.
Like our anti-Semitism, our violent racism and grifting and all of this stuff.
Like subconscious desire to just have someone fucking just do it.
Yes.
We don't have to think about it, just fucking do it.
And for the most part, we go about our days and are like pretty normal and okay and get along with our neighbors and try to do the right thing. And every so often there's just this like flare up. And the flare up was Lyndon.
Yeah. Before Lyndon, it was Huey Long. And after Lyndon, it's, Trump and this fash movement we have going on right now. I think that's a really good point. Counter argument. I think we need to introduce a proposition or like some sort of constitutional state amendment. And it's going to take a lot of work. So I understand if, it's daunting. I think we need to make ownership of philosophy by anyone under the age of 16 illegal. Like if we see a 14-year-old Nietzsche, you're going straight to fucking juvie, man. I don't give a fuck. You gotta put it down. It's a gateway drug to learning all the wrong lessons.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Or at least, fill your home with more than just philosophy. Have a fucking boxcar children.
Dude, just have some Harlequin romance novels lying around. Like let your kids read some literature porn.
You know what? If you just needed a copy of Lady Chandraley's Lover, just
seriously.
It's such a sad fucking story because it's not like there's a history of LaRouche's parents being completely terrible to him. It's just, he was kind of a dick. He was born a dick. No one really seemed willing to correct it, or if they tried, he clearly didn't want to learn the lesson and just stumble-fucked his way into having a cult of thousands that the specter of which still exists today in very weird and fucked up ways.
And I think absolutely it's the fact that he is just like, especially the older photos of him, he is just such a milquetoast suburban white guy. Like he just looks like he has a paper pushing job somewhere in the government and receives a steady check.
Yeah, like if Grumpy Cat was a toad, I think that's Lyndon.
Yes.
It's just so sad. But yeah, that's the story of Lyndon and the man who somehow that guy gets to live to be 96 and, hasn't paid for a fucking thing more than a $5 haircut supposedly since 1979. And I don't know if that's a good life or not. I really don't know.
That's definitely one of the things I'm very angry about.
Like, was he ever happy? Did he ever actually own happiness at any point in time?
Probably not, because he read philosophy at too young an age.
Oh my God. It's just like, did he ever actually believe, Levins, that, we lived in the perfect universe? Did he feel like this was the perfect universe for him? Or is there like another universe?
Until What's-Her-Face dumped him.
Don't put this on her. She got
I'm
out.
not. Oh, I am absolutely
out. Her
not. I'm just
husband got
saying, like,
kidnapped.
that's when he realized, wait, something might go wrong out of my control. I mean, it could have been in his control. He could have been a better human being, but
Well, I think that's all the thoughts I have on the subject. Do you have anything?
oh my God, no. Except my last thought will just be as a side comment on the whole like civil rights activists suddenly becoming pro LaRouchean and Amelia's involvement in particular reminded me of one of my own like Never Meet Your Hero heartbreaking story when I found out that Madeleine Albright absolutely shills like Herbalife.
Oh God,
That like OG MLM. Like there's videos of her just being like, oh my God, I love it. And I put it in everything. It's like, Maddie, what is going on? I love you.
Depressing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know,
Like I said, it's good to remember the good people. There were decent people who did decent things. It's heartbreaking that shit happened, but
and everyone should remember that people contain multitudes.
it's true. That is incredibly true.
Good and bad.
Just because you were very right about something once doesn't make you always right.
Yes. Yes. In fact, Silicon Valley really needs to take that under consideration.
Oh, well, here's hoping they don't make an app for LaRouche Thought. Based on their websites, I don't think that's coming anytime soon. So I think we're good. But Una, thank you for taking the 7-hour journey with me.
Yeah, Dusty, thank you for taking the wheel.
Oh God, yeah. I don't think we're gonna go into something this long again until we talk about like Ron Paul or someone like that. Like it's gonna be another year before I hit another big name.
Yeah,
I need to take some time. I gotta look at some wacky, fun people for a bit. And
yeah, we need to
onslaught of 2022.
We need to stare at memes and
so nice.
Little else.
Well, on that note, everyone, thank you so much for joining us and spending all this time learning about Lyndon goddamn LaRouche. It's good to not be the only person who has to keep this in my fucking head. So, welcome to hell. Thank you so much. You know what? We'll see you next time on Gadfly.
Yay! We did it! You did it! It's over!
Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.
Ready to level up your cosplay game? Check out the Geek Forge on Etsy. With a variety of props to give your photos that extra spark, you'll find just what you need. Hold magical fire in the palm of your hand, or take a potion to restore your mana. With a large variety of colors, you can choose your own magical flavor for your cosplay. Bring drama to your photo shoots with these vibrant props and more, all available at the Geek Forge. Are you ready to level up your cosplay?